Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. You know, I am a stickler for starting on time. So if you've ever been a part of any event that I have hosted, you know I'm starting when I say I'm supposed to start, and everybody else is just going to have to catch up. Happy Sunday. I know it is a beautiful day outside, so I am grateful that you opted to spend your time with me, finding out about all of these books that I've written and all of this great stuff that's been done and the why behind it. I am so excited. When I tell you so excited, I have absolutely dreaded doing any type of launch party or book launch. And it took me 5 books to finally jump on here and to have a conversation with you all on National Single Parents Day. Today is National Single Parents Day, so shout out to all of the unmarried parents. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it by yourself. It just means that you're not married. And then if you are doing it by yourself, then I hope that some of the things that I dropped today in regards to all of the wonderful short reads that I've written kind of resonate for you. And then if you haven't already picked up your copy, that you go right on ahead and you do that. So with that being said, let's talk about it. And first, let's talk about this title, because this title in and of itself could be a little misleading. Parenting after the pandemic, it's about you, not them. What in the hell does that actually even mean? Well, it actually means what it says, right? Although we're still knee deep in the pandemic, there's life after, and you have to be straight. Every single book that I have written has to do with accountability and making sure that the parent shows up, the individual shows up, the man, woman, whomever picks up one of these short reads, that they show up as their best self, their true, authentic self. And that, because that's so important to me, that's a large part of the reason why I'm on here with the hoodie on, relaxed, having a conversation with you guys. I went back and forth, like, should you do it formal, keep it professional? Absolutely not. I am extremely transparent. If you follow me on social media, you already know. And I figured if we're going to have a chat, especially a chat virtually, we might as well be comfortable. And that's where we are. But then, of course, this is my brand. So the Boundaries Bitch hoodie is on the CHBM Services website, as well as the accountability one, the audacity one, all of them. And you may see a trend there, which you'll also see overlaps in all of my books. We take this thing seriously. You can't be any good for anybody else if you are not good for yourself. So every single thing that I write about is about you. And I'm going to keep saying that. I have to keep saying that because I need us to accept that, own that, and rock with it. And then for those of us who are parents, I know time is a commodity, right? We don't have a whole lot of it. So I don't have hundreds of pages for you to read to get to the point. The longest book that I have here is probably 34 pages. Quick reads. We're in and out. Get to the point. Tell us what you're going to tell us, and tell us what you told us. I live by that. And it's also because that's what I do in my professional space. For those who don't know me, how about that? Let's take those 30 seconds, because I'm assuming you did your research if you jumped on. I'm assuming you're connected to me on social media, but just in case that's not the case, I am an IO psychologist by trade. I sit in the human resources space for one of the largest utilities in the country. And on a day-to-day basis, I help professionals develop in leadership and or professionally. Hence why I have CHBM Services, which is a career development consultancy. Hence why all of my books are tapped into us being our best selves. I don't just talk about this because I have nothing better else to do. I live it. So every example that I give in any one of the books comes from my real life and an experience that I had. I love to share. If anybody can learn from my mistakes, that's what I'm here for. And that's how I feel. I feel like anything that I've been through makes me a natural open book so that I can help the next person grow through and be better. and prayerfully not have to do the same things that I did, because I've done some stuff, and we'll find out about a couple of those things in a moment. So first up, I never wanted to be an author. I don't know if you've ever heard me say that. I don't know if you've ever seen me write that anywhere, but that's the reality of the situation. And for me to be 5 books in, it is absolutely amazing, and me just being obedient and walking in my purpose. But being an author, that was not anything that was ever on my radar. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to be a parent. I just never, right? I knew I was going to be successful. I knew that I was going to make a lot of money. I knew that I was going to live well, eat well, travel, and do all of those things. However, a family was never a part of that picture. And sure enough, there were no books being written with my name on them that were going to help me get there. So how did I even get to the point of writing 5 books? Well, being a parent. So those of you who are connected to me and follow me know that I'm a mom. I have a soon-to-be 21-year-old, should be 21 in April. I have a 18-year-old who's getting ready to graduate from high school, and I have a 5-year-old son. So my oldest 2 are girls. The first 2 are from a previous 10-year relationship, and then my son is from my last relationship, right? So whole lot of experiences, completely different ends of the spectrum. And my oldest child has been the one that has taught me some of the greatest lessons. That child, let me say first, I am extremely proud of her. She is finishing up her cosmetology license, and she is making a killing. When I say she's checking the bag, she is checking the bag. That child is doing better than me financially. And she has her own place. She has her own car. She has grown up to be a beautiful young lady, and I'm extremely proud of her. And I'm even more proud that I didn't kill her, because that's how I became an author, because of her. A Mother's Love, my first book, was written because of my experiences with her when she was like 16, 17 years old. I learned the hard way, which some of you may very well attest to, that we don't typically have hard conversations about what parenting is actually like. We don't share those stories. As far as we're concerned, children come out the womb and then they grow up to be perfect. And that is the farthest thing from the truth. So some of you who have lived through the teenage years, you already know that, and you're probably laughing. But then for those who have yet to experience the teenage years, good luck and God bless. If you're a wine drinker, I support you. If you're a sage burner, you're going to need that too. And whatever religion you practice, you're gonna need that. However, you really are going to need a outlet and a sounding board, because teens are tricky. I mean, they're crazy. I didn't like teens when I was a kid. I didn't like teens when I was a teen. I don't like teens as an adult. And then, having parented 2 of them thus far, I stand firmly in the fact that I still don't like teenagers. But I get it. So my oldest daughter, she went through this phase where I couldn't tell her anything. She wanted to do what she wanted to do. I was the worst mother in the world, because everybody else parents just let them go and do, and they would buy them whatever they wanted, just to keep them happy and to keep the peace in the home and all of this other stuff, that my daughter ultimately later circled back and was like, I get it now, right? She learned some valuable lessons there. But through that year and a half of a transition that I went through with her, I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't have a sounding board. I was hurt a lot. I cried a lot. I was frustrated. I literally wanted to kill her most of the time, and I didn't like my child. Like, I did not like her. And I was second guessing the fact that I still had two more that I needed to raise if this is what the experience was going to be like with the first one. And because I was going through that by myself, no one had ever told me that that was normal. Nothing that I experienced with my oldest daughter was abnormal. Teenagers go through those things. It is a natural part of the growth process. Nobody told me what to do, right? There was nobody for me to ask. And I realized that that was a lot more common than not. So I started asking myself some questions about why that was. And I literally started writing. So A Mother's Love, 31 Days of Affirmations for Single Mothers, is dedicated to mothers, period. But because of the fact that I sat in the seat of the unmarried mom, I wrote from the seat of the unmarried mom, right? However, having had mothers who are married, having mothers that are widowed, separated, like the whole 9 yards, sitting on all spectrums, having had them to read the book, and fathers too, I found out that it doesn't really matter what seat you sit in. Every last one of those days is relevant for a mom. So I'm going to do a reading from A Mother's Love, 31 Days of Affirmations for Single Mothers, just so you can kind of get an idea if by chance you don't have the book yet. And I'll do that for each book. For each book, I've selected a part of the text that I'm going to read you guys, just so you can get an idea of how it's written, what the context is, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, scrolling across the bottom of the screen is my website. So if you haven't gotten them all, if you were waiting for the event to get them all, whatever the case may be, I'm completely fine with it. But I'll take you through all of them, and then you can go to the website and get them. Or you can say, it's not for me, but I'll tell somebody about it. Either way, I'm good with it. So let's see, day 15. The great thing about this particular text is that every day is dedicated to something that we experience as a parent, right? That was intentional. So all of the titles are kind of dope. This particular book is available this is the only one of my books that is available in audiobook. It's also in Kindle and iBook. And then I recently republished this book. So now it has pictures in it, and it's just even more dope than it was originally. So the older version, the version that's on the audiobook, and the version that is on Kindle and iBooks is no longer available for sale. Well, I have like 3 copies of it left. Everywhere else that books are sold, primarily Amazon, which is the biggest retailer that supports me, the new book is out. And then that book is available in color, and it's also available in black and white. Shameless plug. So let's see what day 15 is just me, myself, and I has for us. There will be times when you will feel the loneliest that you've ever felt. There'll be a drastic change. The kids will leave, and you'll have failed to make plans for that weekend. Everyone will appear to have something going on in their lives but you. Whether the reason is as simple as an empty nest or as complicated as a life change, there'll come a time when you'll feel alone. Your best friend in life is yourself. You should not only be your only friend, but you should definitely love yourself. You should love hanging out with you. You should love talking to you. You should be comfortable with the skin you're in, and no one should love you more than you. As long as you love you, you won't let anyone else mistreat you. As long as you love you, you won't let anyone disrespect you. As long as you love you, you won't let any harm come to anything connected to you. Loving you is criteria for being a great mom. Healthy self-esteem is a requirement of a good life. When you feel good about you, you do better. You do better because you believe in yourself and your outlook is positive. When your outlook is positive, you pass good vibes to those around you. When you pass good vibes to those around you, people like to be around you. When people like to be around you, they'll like to do things with and for you. It's reciprocity. What you sow, you reap. If you sow positivity, positivity will be returned to you. Are there exceptions? Absolutely. But the norm will always be that the vibe sown will be the vibe returned. How do you feel about you? So, of course, there's a reason why I picked this particular day to read, right? Self-care, motherhood, misnomers. When do we get to take a moment to hang out with ourselves, to take a breath, to take a step back, to chill, right? Over the course of the last year, which is another part of the reason that it's titled Parenting After the Pandemic, how much time have you dedicated to just showing up and showing out for yourself? And this doesn't have anything to do with you necessarily leaving the house, because you don't have to leave the house to be able to do things for you. You can hold up in your bedroom. I'm in mine now, intentionally, right? Comfortable setting, set the tone. I'm demonstrating what I talk about. Take a moment for yourself. Over the course of the last year, this has been a trending topic. How many of us have actually done it, though? How many of us are actually being intentional and prioritizing ourselves? When it comes to relationships, and I know that this is a taboo topic because nobody wants to talk about it, are you naturally showing up as your best self, or are you playing games? Do you have unrealistic expectations? Do you even know what it's like to date you? What does that look like? Are you the person that you want? This is all stuff that you find out and you figure out when you take the time to get to know you and to prioritize you. In regards to parenting, it's the same thing. In regards to being a daughter, in regards to being a mother, in regards to being a father, whatever your role is in life, employee, co-worker, whatever type of role you play, are you putting in what you're expecting to get out? Every last one of those 31 days are about you as a mom and a woman. They ain't about nothing else. 2 days are talking about dad, but guess what? They're not talking about dad and what he's doing, what he's not doing. They're talking about you and the relationship with him and what you're doing or not doing and how you're handling or not handling, and if you're carrying grudges and if you're angry. Relationships fail. It's a part of life. What you do with that is completely up to you. And I'll just leave that there. Parenting is a love-hate relationship. Whew. This book. So I wrote A Mother's Love in spring of 2017. And I realized this year after publishing my 5th book that there's normally a trend here. I normally always publish books in the March and April timeframe. All of my businesses typically start in the February, March timeframe. Something about this first quarter of the year where I'm rocking and rolling. So Parenting is a Love-Hate Relationship was not expected. But I guess that's the trend of all my books, right? Because I was never intended, I never wanted to be an author. However, I wrote as an outlet. I wrote as an outlet to help myself as well as to help other moms who didn't have someone to talk to. And then I figured after I wrote the first book, since it was for moms, maybe I could talk about experiences with dads and help dads on the other side, right? But for some reason, that book didn't come about until last year. We'll talk about that one in a moment. And Parenting is a Love-Hate Relationship ended up being number 2. And this is one of my favorite books because of the fact that it allowed me to take a step back and really assess what I've learned over the course of, at that time. So I wrote this in 2019, in the summer of 2019. At that time, my oldest was, she had graduated. She was done with her first year of college, and she had switched into the cosmetology role and was figuring all of that out. And then I was at the point where the middle child was in that I don't like her phase, which was a lot easier than the older child phase. And it was just different. And then I had a toddler. And I was doing all of this other stuff. I, had rebranded CHBM Services. At that time, I still had the L3C. I hadn't started the not-for-profit. Yes, I did. I had just started the not-for-profit that summer. And I shut the L3C down. So it was a lot happening. And this whole parenting thing is fluid, right? Like it, regardless to whatever we got going on in our own life, even when we're prioritizing us, that parenting thing doesn't change, especially when we have smaller children. So, Parenting is a Love-Hate Relationship, my second book, with the subtitle 7 Ways to Keep Your Sanity While Being a Great Leader in Your Home, was a goal of mine for me. And this is the only one of my books that I know of that has sold internationally. And I only know that because of the Amazon sales. But this one has sold internationally, and I am super proud of that. However, this book is me sharing lessons learned through storytelling yet again, right? So for this particular read, it's Find the Mustard Seed and Watch It Grow. Just like a mother's love is intentionally affirmations. This book is not affirmations. It's reflections and conversation. Every single one of the chapters is dedicated to something that we should be doing that translates into leadership development, right? And I know you're kind of like, how does leadership development fit into parenting? You'd be surprised. It goes hand in hand. By me working in the professional space and me working with adults on a regular basis in regards to professional and leadership development, I can tell by the way they show up in the workplace how they were raised. Holistic career development is a real thing, and that's why I do it. There is a crossover. There is a cross functionality between how you were raised, what you were taught is normal versus abnormal, and how you show up as an air quote functioning adult. And that is exactly why I wrote this book, because there are some things that we take for granted. One of the chapters is mean what you say what you mean. Another one is be consistent. We've got be intentional. Some of this stuff starting to sound familiar. Demonstrate healthy relationships. Maybe I should read that one since I read the whole me, myself, and I one for a mother's love. I'm going to come back to that. Let's see. Work the job. Don't let it work you. Incorporate. That's it. And then the one that I was going to read is Find the Mustard Seed and Watch It Grow. But I think I'm going to go with Demonstrate Healthy Relationships for the obvious reasons, especially since the next book that we're going to cover is Dear Dad, and it kind of all ties in. So bear with me. Have you ever stopped and considered the way your relationships show up to your children? Have you ever stopped and considered how your relationships show up to you? What pattern exists? The role you play in their successes or failures. Have you ever taken a step back and reviewed these intricate parts of your existence with a fine-tooth comb? I have. It's been an interesting journey. Some of my past relationships showed just how much I didn't value myself. Others showed how little I respected others. When I started getting this right, it made it difficult to ever fall into either of the previous extremes ever again. When we know better, we do better. And for those of us who were not taught what healthy looks like growing up, it's a tougher journey to navigate as an adult. It's also even more important that we figure this out so that we can help our babies start on a good foot. My 10-year relationship with my girl's father was unhealthy. In hindsight, it's the same relationship that I had with my mother. How would I have ever known to get out of something that I'd been in my entire life? Who was supposed to explain this to me? Their dad isn't a bad person, neither is my mom. They're just not right for me. Can you relate? What made the relationship unhealthy? Dare I say, toxic. Any relationship that is one-sided or seemingly codependent is unhealthy. If a relationship negatively triggers you, it's toxic. There's a level of responsibility that we must take as well. If you willingly stay in a relationship that does any of the above, you must address your own toxicity. I stayed for 10 years. I enabled my mom for decades. At no point was I a victim. I was a willing participant in everything that I experienced. Until I opted to distance myself or completely sever the ties, I can safely say that my continued suffering was no one's fault but my own. No one can repeatedly mistreat you without permission. My acceptance and owning of that one thing helped to start my healing and identifying what healthy looks like. I knew that these weren't relationships that I ever wanted for my kids. So after taking the first step of removing myself from the romantic relationship, I started dealing with me and my whys. Once I identified what damaged me in my relationship with my mother, I made sure that I was not that person to my own children. I also never spoke negatively about either of them until my children got to a point where they brought things to my attention. They love their father and their grandmother. They have always and will continue to have relationships with them both, absent of my involvement. I stay in my lane. My opinion about them is mute. I've had challenges with my own father as well. My bottom line and behavior is consistent. My parents had rough upbringings. To an extent, their stories aren't mine to tell. I can say that no one taught either to be a parent or love, and they both did the best that they could with what they had. Ultimately, I turned out decent. I had to own a lot and be intentional about everything that plagued me emotionally, but I made it out okay, right? Because I'm sitting here talking to y'all about this. My goal is to ensure that my kids don't have to unpack anything emotionally except the things they or life brings on. The foundation has been laid for them to approach relationships with open eyes and full hearts. I made my exit and started looking for what looks right in other relationships. This is the only time that I would ever advise looking at someone else's life as a model. All relationships are different and require different things to make them work. Success for each couple is weighed on a different scale. It's very personal. However, there are core things that should exist in every relationship. The rest is a la carte. Respect, trust, fidelity, friendship. Outside platonic friendships, guys or girls night out is required. Provision, protection. You must like each other. You must be genuinely attracted to each other. Traditionally, healthy relationships aren't explained. We may see couples that have existed for 20 plus years, but no one tells us that they stayed in love. Kind of similar to like what we go through with parenting, right? Nobody tells us these things. You just got to kind of figure it out, right? Hey, Dr. Shan. Did you notice that I never listed love? That was intentional. Love is implied by the existence of all things, all those things, and no couple is naturally in love forever. They work at it. They choose it. I believe strongly in the laws of attraction. When I started healing, right relationships came into my life as positive examples. Being close to both the husband and wife allowed me the opportunity to see both sides. Being in a failed relationship allowed me to grow in my current one of 7 years. It's not a fairy tale. It's worth the effort. And that's the reality of relationships. They are work. Romantic, platonic, familial, any relationship worth having is going to stretch and test you. What they shouldn't do are deplete and diminish you. If you're consistently pouring, never being filled, get out. If you're consistently wondering and confused, get out. If you're consistently in a negative space, get out. The right relationships don't test your peace. They test your sanity. And then, of course, the difference with this book is that it has reflections in the end. So once you go through each of the 7 lessons, when you get to the end of each lesson, it allows you to reflect and then think through physically, write through how you're feeling about what it is that you've read. So we've made it through the first 2, 3 more to go. A Mother's Love, 31 Days of Affirmations for Single Mothers, and then Parenting is a Love-Hate Relationship. Let's see what else we got here and who is next. Dear Dad. So I mentioned this book. When I tell you this was one of my favorite books to write, this is one of my favorite books to write. And this is why. If you follow me on social media, you know that I am an advocate for dads, especially Black fathers, because I know that they get a hard a hard rap. Now, are there garbage dads? Of course there are. There are garbage mothers too, right? But for some reason, women don't get dragged the way the men do. And I don't have the answers for that, nor will I even try to guess. But I do know that that is a reality. So, Dear Dad was supposed to be my second book after A Mother's Love. That didn't happen. I did not write Dear Dad and publish it until February of 2020. I was supposed to have had this book signing in person because of that book. And of course, COVID came and just knocked the wind out of everybody's sails and shifted that. Cool, no problem. We reassessed and came back. For about 2 years, I collected data from men in regards to specific areas where, they felt like they needed support, they weren't heard, things along those lines. And that's how Dear Dad came about. The title, A Letter to the Unmarried Father from a Single Mother, was intentional. Again, everything that I do has to do with accountability, showing up as your best self. So this is not a letting people off the hook or any of that. It is providing encouragement and conversation around the topics that plague them from a single mother's perspective based on what their ask is. So if you've got the theme from the first 2 books, then you know when a man picks up this book, is work for him to do. Because just like in regards to A Mother's Love, everything in there is for mommy, and for mommy to own, and for mommy to work through. Everything in there, in Dear Dad, is for dad, and for dad to own, and for dad to work through. Okay? So I'm actually going to read the letter, because at the end of the book, there is a letter to the single father. But just so you know, some of the topics that are in here. From a dad's perspective, I asked them, what is a single mother? Let's conquer this elephant first, right? In here are reflections, questions, and activities for dad. What is co-parenting? We have to level set to move on. We need you, no matter how we act. What do you think we want? No, seriously, I want to know. And these are all of the chapters of the book. You are not your father, or are you? It's your choice. You are not a failure. You made a mistake. She was not the one, and now there's a child. So those are all of the chapters. Each have questions and reflections for dad to kind of think through and to grow through. Because I know that there is this thought that men don't have feelings, men don't care because they did this, because they did that, that it means a lot of things other than what it actually means. And that's cool, right? Those are the assumptions. However, based on the responses that I got back from the men in the survey that I took, these were the things that were important to them. So we have this conversation and they get to think through it. So now, the actual letter to the unmarried father from a single mother. I like to first say that I love you. No matter what road we travel to get where we are, I love you as the father of my child. I appreciate what you've tried to do for our child and see your consistent effort. If you keep making strides to be the best dad that you can be, I will always support you. It won't necessarily look the way you want it to. However, the support is there. Once our relationship changed, certain dynamics had to change. As we continue to grow in our separate directions, those dynamics will consistently shift. One thing that I promise is that we'll remain on the same page for our children. Our styles are different. Our roles are different. I expect there be disagreement around tactics and appropriate times. It's life. We're feeling through this thing together. Neither of us may have had the greatest parenting examples growing up. If we didn't pick up what to do over the years, we can say we learned what not to do. Let's start there. We must talk to each other. We can't parent in silos. We'll confuse our children. They'll leverage our discord and work to play us against each other. Children are little opportunists, especially once they become teens. Whether we live under one roof or in separate states, we must present a unified front. We dropped the ball on us. Let's forgive each other and apply those lessons to future relationships. Let's not work to repeatedly live in dysfunction. Let's work together to build healthy people. After all, we are our child's first example of everything. How we carry ourselves dictates how they carry themselves in the world. That's a lot of responsibility. What a weight to bear. We can't do this alone. Let's work together. The future of our community depends on it. With love, a single unmarried mom. So that's Dear Dad, a letter to the unmarried father from a single mother. So I'm missing the book. No, I'm not. I figured it out. Okay. Had a brain freeze, y'all. We're 3 out of 5 in. Let me pause. Questions, comments, concerns. Of course, you can comment on the actual live if you have any questions, and if by chance something comes up or you think of something and you don't necessarily want to share it publicly, you can always reach out to me via Messenger through either the hashtag Ask Catherine page, the CHBM Services page. If we're connected and are Facebook friends, you can always reach out to me there. You can call me. I mean, or you can email me at chbmservices@gmail.com. I'm here. So we can literally chat about everything. But those are the first 3. Those are the near and dear, all rooted in parenting and parenting related. And then we flip the script completely, but not really. So if you've ever been on the CHBM Services page, you will notice that I focus on holistic career development. What is holistic career development? Well, I'm glad you asked. It basically means, and I alluded to this in Parenting is a Love-Hate Relationship, how you grow up, how you are at home, how you are in your day-to-day life shows up in the workplace. Which also means that if you're going through things in your personal life, they're also going to show up in the workplace. So we don't just focus on career development from a standpoint of, resume writing, LinkedIn profiles, interviewing, and, coaching to be able to transition, leadership development, professional development, and all that stuff. That's not just what we focus on. We tie it into everything, but we focus on you being your best self. So whatever those little things are, again, like you see the whole boundary sweatshirt, you've been a part of the conversations that have to do with accountability, the audacity, all of that is working on the individual, because any bad habits that you have around those things show up in the workplace. And then when you have to deal with me and I'm trying to support your development, I'm also finding myself in a position where I'm coaching and counseling. I am not a psychiatrist. But unfortunately, as an IO psychologist, I have to deal with all of your back baggage, and we all have it. So it made sense for me to make sure that I was creating a platform that made it a safe space to talk about what you need to talk about. If you can't afford to pay for your child to do basic things, to get the things that they need, that's going to affect you in the workplace. If you're going through a relationship, some type of relationship troubles, if you're having car troubles, anything that happens outside the world shows up in the workplace. And that's where the danger is of it's just always business. It's never personal. To a certain extent, that is true. But at the same time, it's our lack of humanity in the workplace that causes problems and people to flip out. If you've ever heard that saying, people quit managers in our jobs, that's exactly why. because people fail to acknowledge that they're dealing with human beings. So human beings are flawed. Human beings are emotional. Now, this doesn't give you an excuse to act a fool, because that's where the accountability piece comes in. That's where the emotional intelligence piece comes in. However, we can operate in empathy. So I say all that to say, I created a 28-day career development planner. Let me see. I don't think I have the, oh, I do. Okay. I created a 28-day career development planner. In that planner, there are 7 scenarios that show up in real relationship and parenting life that are replayed over the course of the 28 days, right? So Monday is one particular relationship, Tuesday, so on and so forth, right? Why did I use the same 7 scenarios? Because it takes 21 days to form a habit. So you needed to engage with those different scenarios X amount of times for that type of stuff to start to make sense with you. So I didn't bring the planner over here because I didn't plan to read anything from there. But I guess I should. So let me go get it. So for the 28-day planner, one of the scenarios is, so they're all set up as Q&A. And because of COVID, I'm going to pick this particular one. The titles are balancing career development question of the day, right? So you go through, you read the question and answer scenario, and then you plan out your to-do list. It's literally a spiral list day planner. I've been laid off. I haven't worked any other job but the one that I had. I'm overwhelmed with the application process. What do I do? And then the answer is an actual career tip. No matter where you begin, the job process is the same. 1, apply intentionally. 2, update your resume. 3, network and connect with people at the company. 4, thoroughly complete the online applications. 5, follow up. And 6, maintain an up-to-date LinkedIn. So like I said, it's 7 different scenarios tied to different real life events that happen across the gambit. And there's instructions on how to use the planner, the whole 9 yards. I republished this. This was a virtual document, and I turned around and I made it into an actual living book. So it's good to have if you're in between stages, in between times, trying to figure it out, not necessarily in between times, and you just want a relevant planner. It's kind of cool to have. So from a time standpoint, I over schedule time because I do that just in case. We're going to go as long as we need to go. So if I get through this and there's no questions, comments, or concerns, then I'll wrap up like once I get to the end of the surprise, because I have a huge announcement to make. But we will see. So again, if there's questions, comments, or concerns, you can always drop them in the chat. And if it's not something you want to ask publicly, you can always reach out to me and connect with me on the back end through the website. Everything that comes through that website comes to me. So if you don't remember anything else, know that you can go to the CHBM services page and it'll bring you right back to me. The most recent text, the last book, published in February of 2021. Oh, the career development planner was 2020 as well. So both Dear Dad and the career development planner were 2020. And now we are here with the 8 steps to accountability. I hate that picture because it makes the book look thicker than it actually is. It's not. It's actually a workbook. And I am building a course. Well, I have built a course, which ties into my announcement, that wraps around this, because this is more than a notion. Like, this is a conversation that needs to be had because of the space that I sit in professionally, because of what I do with the career development coach, and because of what I see on social media. We struggle with accountability as adults. And there's a trend here. Every single thing that I have written about starts and stops with you as an individual and at home. We need to keep that momentum going. So 8 steps to accountability. Accountability is a real thing. Their support in the struggle is a favorite. I love this workbook. As with everything, I tell a story. It starts with the fill in the blank. So it allows you the opportunity to be able to answer whatever the phrase is that's put forth. And then I tell a story to explain through it, and there's a reflection. So some of the things are like define accountability, which is what I'll actually read. Identify what accountability looks like. Identify what accountability sounds like, feels like, and trust me, it has a sound, it has a feel, the whole 9 yards. Identify and note the struggles you face when holding yourself accountable. It's a workbook. It's for you to literally work through your struggles with accountability. Think through and identify any patterns associated with your accountability struggle. So this one isn't as fun as the other ones. Identify a potential accountability partner. That is a real thing. It is not a misnomer. And outline your accountability plan. So this is intended for the person who's actually going to do the work. And like I said, I've built a course around it. So this is for those who are coming through for career development coaching and who are serious about this. And just so you'll get an idea of what the stories look like, let's redefine accountability. So as a child, I was bullied. Imagine that. Your first encounters with what you believe to be friends results in a form of abuse. Not because of anything that you did wrong, but because of how you look, the way you dress, how you speak, just being you. This experience at 9 taught me how to fight. More importantly, fight back. At 12, I lost my first fist fight. This young lady literally beat me up on every corner for about a mile because I liked her boyfriend and took it upon myself to interfere with their relationship. Although I never lost another fist fight after this experience taught me that everything doesn't need to be a battle and some wars don't need to be fought. What does any of my childhood drama have to do with accountability? Accountability is rooted in taking responsibility for your actions, thoughts, words, and lack thereof. Acknowledging how you got there, why you're there, and what you should do next. More importantly, being intentional about the decision you make to move the situation forward. When I was being bullied, fighting back was the only option to rid myself of that toxic group. At 12, I could have avoided their beatdown had I respected their relationship and myself enough to stay in my single lane. Holding yourself accountable helps you heal. So we could talk for 6 weeks about that last line by itself. However, there's no point because I'm pretty certain that you understand exactly where I'm coming from. All of the books that I've written, all of the courses that I build, the engagements, my Facebook posts, all of that, I leverage storytelling in some way, shape, fashion, or form, or quick hits to be able to push forward that everything starts and stops with us. Our life at the end is going to be as great or not as great as we want it to be based on the decisions that we make, how we respond to things, how we show up for things, just us making decisions, us being accountable, us being emotionally intelligent, us being responsible, us doing the things that we need to do for us, and us showing up as the people we expect others to be. And I know that's a lot to ask, especially considering the things that I see on social media these days. But after this last year, I think that we're worth the investment. And we can put forth the type of energy for foolishness. I think we can absolutely put forth the type of energy that we need to be great so that we can heal. For those of us who are parents, there is an entire community that is dependent on us. And we need to show up for them. And the best way for us to show up for them is for us to do the work. We talk about the ancestors, we talk about our parents, we talk about what we weren't taught. We need to start talking about what we're doing. And that is the complete and utter premise of all of my books. I can't say that I'm not going to write another one. I already have the draft for number 6. I'm just like waiting for the piece to be able to kind of go through with it. But I'm still building things. I'm still showing up. I'm still learning, and I'm still willing to share everything that I learn as I go through this process. And the most exciting part of that is with that, I'm applying the lessons that I learned and then packaging them for others. And that last slide, that of course, if something didn't go wrong, it just wouldn't be right, is my surprise. So let me see if I can get it back up on the screen. Can you see it? Can you see it? There it goes. Now you might be saying, what is that? CHBM Services University is live, y'all. I finally did it. Just like I finally wrote the first book and I finally started the 501c3 and I finally got out of my own way and sat down and did this launch party and told, all of you guys about what's inside of these books in case you didn't know. I've finally taken all of my content and the content that I have yet to build and put it in one place. So all of the wraparound courses, all of the different speaking engagements, as well as the actual career development one-on-one series and courses, they're all live. They're out there for folks to purchase what needs to be purchased and for folks to engage with what needs to be engaged. And I am so excited. Thank you so much, Sheena. Like, I could cry behind the level of excitement behind this. And it's literally like only the beginning. There's so much more to do. There's so much more to talk through, but I am in this career development thing for the long haul. It is my purpose. It is my passion, and being intentional about showing up as my authentic self, that is a focal point for me. I'll be suited and booted when I need to be suited and booted. However, where the opportunity presents itself for me to be a regular human being and engage and have real conversation about the things that are important to us and to be able to lead those conversations and help us through those things, I'm showing up in hoodies as the real me, having candid conversation, because that's what we need. We don't get the same lessons and, conversations around how to be great as others do. And what I've learned, especially from those of us in the population that need it the most, once they see those of us who have, graduated and achieved and all that great stuff, they look at us as disconnected and they can't relate to us. So we have to reach back and have that transparent conversation. We got to meet them where they are. And that is why I'm owning my authenticity in that aspect. We're keeping it simple. We're keeping it simple because we need to help. We need to make an impact. The next generations need us. And I am serious about this thing. Completely and utterly serious about it. So, like I said, I scheduled more time just in case it was needed. But I am only holding people hostage for as long as I need to hold people hostage. So I will open up again for any questions, comments, or concerns. Anything comes up, there are any thoughts, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you so much for dedicating your time to me today, spending time with me. Of course, this replay will be available because I know it's nice outside. So Enough said, right? I already know how that goes, but I appreciate you. And I look forward to being able to share what's next, and anything that I can do, let me know. Thank you so much for supporting parenting after the pandemic. It's about you, not them, because this is all about you. And as long as you rocking and you making sure you putting your best foot forward, then everything else is going to take care of itself. Go back outside, or go outside if you haven't been outside. Enjoy this beautiful weather. Make sure you have your mask on. Stay safe, and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.